Hey everyone, Chris here with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal in Southeast Florida. I wanted to talk about something that I see often, and it's kind of like a stigma with labor-based jobs, and it revolves around strength. And this has nothing to do with gender or age. To be in certain jobs, you need to have a general level of strength. And not just strength of, oh, you can lift up something heavy, but you need to have grip strength. You need to have core stability. You have to have coordination, and you need to be relatively strong just in general. And I'm not saying you have to be able to go lift up, 400 pounds or, be able to overhead press 200 pounds or something, but you need to have functional strength if you're going to be working in junk removal or moving. It's just the bottom line. And I think something that a lot of people have misinterpretations of, and I saw this all the time when I was a mover, because I came from weightlifting. I'm not like professional, but I did weightlifting before I did moving. So I was able to deadlift around 500 pounds at my weight, which was like 180. I could squat over 400 pounds. Let's not talk about bench, but I wasn't too bad. And I felt like for me, like looking at me, I'm skinny. Look at these arms. Look at these arms. These arms, they ain't nothing here. These are bones. Bones, and there's not really much fat because I have a high metabolism, but I'm a skinny individual. Like I'm not a big guy, but I felt like I was reasonably strong for how I appeared. And I was thinking when I went into moving, okay, well, I got the strength down. I can pick up most of these things. And I found out very quickly that's not really the case. You can be strength strong in like weights, but here's the thing with weights. Most exercises are very symmetrical and balanced. So you have strength, but you're always following the same pattern. Think about a squat or a deadlift. If you're on a leg press machine, you have something controlling that weight, so it's not going to drift side to side, up and down, or maybe halfway down it changes position on you a little bit. It's a smooth transition all the way through that you are doing continuously. If you're doing squat on a spit machine, you have that weight, but again, you have something controlling you from drifting side to side, keeping you from drifting like this, which could put a lot of strain on your lower back. If you're doing a free form squat, so you're just doing a regular barbell back squat, front squat, whatever you want to do, that's probably the farthest you're going to get to functional strength, except for the fact that you're holding a symmetrical bar. So in moving or junk removal, let's say, for example, you're not going to sit there and put something on your back and squat it, but you do need leg straight to drive something up a ramp or to carry something heavy downstairs. In junk removal or moving, let's say you have a really heavy sleeper sofa, maybe it weighs like 400 pounds, and you have somebody on the other side and you're at the bottom, which means you have all the weight, they have just an awkward angle. If you're going down a weird angle, you would imagine, oh, well, my body can hold that much weight through a squat, but I'm in a different position now. I have something pulling me forward. You need core stability to hold yourself up. You need to have grip strength to be able to hold on to something before you lose grip. And you need to be able to, in general, have the coordination to go downstairs while holding something really heavy that's throwing your body off balance. And you need to be able to do all of that. And I think that's something that people don't consider when they're looking to get into this field. They see dollies and hand trucks, and oh, it's easy. I just have to get it on the dolly and roll it out the door. In most cases, yes, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you still need to use strength to get it to the dolly. And sometimes you may be in a position where you can't use a dolly. You can't use a hand truck. And if you're ever in a position where you can't use another person, maybe you need to go by yourself or they call it out, you need to be able to handle this stuff on your own. And I'm not talking about lifting up pianos on your back or carrying them downstairs on a hand truck or picking up 400-pound gun safes, or I'm not putting sleeper sofas on my shoulder and carrying it out to my truck. That would be stupid. And I'm quite frankly probably not strong enough to do that. But I can put it on a hand truck and angle it out, which does take control and technique and grip strength. But there's another factor helping me out along the way. But you do need some level of strength. Like, there are going to be times where you have to lift up something heavy. You can't always use equipment. There's going to be times that even with another person, you both are going to need the strength to handle something. Otherwise, one person is going to be lacking and the other one's going to be trying to take over more. And that usually puts you at risk for injury. because your body's going to be in weird positions. And that's something that you got to keep in mind is this is still labor at the end of the day. You are moving stuff in awkward positions. You're leaning forward slightly in weird angles, which puts a lot of strain on your lower back and your hip flexors. And then oftentimes you can get into having shoulder injuries, especially with rotator cuffs. If you're having to overhead press something going downstairs because of the tight angle, and maybe you have to swoop one way or you have to push forward like that, that's a lot of strain on your shoulder and your trap, and like you can strain your neck. There's all kinds of crap that can go wrong. I noticed in weightlifting, if I got injured, it was always the same one of three things. It was either a hip flexor that usually came from squats. It would be lower back, which either came from squats or deadlift. And then there were shoulder issues that came from bench and overhead press. Like those were literally the same things that would repeat on a constant basis if I were to get injured. And in moving and junk removal, where you're handling functional stuff and weird angles all the time, and the thing about it is you're almost never going to have the same exact type of piece. Like think about 500 couches. There's a good chance that there's probably going to be 50 to 100 different styles of couches where the arms are slightly different, so your grip's going to be a little different. The feet stick out a little farther, so you're going to have to angle it slightly to get it outdoors without causing damage. There's going to be a recliner. There's going to be a recliner where just the back goes up. There's going to be a recliner where the whole thing moves. There's recliners that have built-in massage systems that just added another 40 pounds. You're going to have sleeper sofas. Sleeper sofas from different years have different weights to it. Like everything is so different in such a small detail, but it affects how you have to handle it. And you may not even notice it, but there's a lot of different factors. And if you don't have the basics of strength, core stability, and grip to get you through your most everyday situations, you're gonna run into a problem. So I highly recommend that if you're gonna get into it, if you don't already, to work on your functional strength. Work on picking up items, even just in your own house. Pick them up at slightly different angles where you're gonna have to bend over in a slightly different way. This isn't gonna be like textbook retail safety 101 where they say to bend down with perfect posture and pick up a box using your legs, not your back. You're not always gonna be in that position. And you're not gonna be able to do that with everything you pick up because not everything's gonna be the same type of perfectly square, rectangle, symmetrical box. You're gonna be picking up weird stuff. And you have to be prepared for that to prevent injury. And that's the most important thing, because when you work in labor, if you get hurt, you can't do labor anymore. If you blow out your lower back, you're not picking anything up. I don't care who you are. If you severely blow out your lower back, whether you have a pinched nerves suck. I've had pinched nerves in weightlifting. I feel like dying. I can't imagine people who actually break their backs. If you break your back, if you slip a disc, if you have a herniated disc, if you pinch a nerve, you are not going to be picking stuff up in junk removal. You're not going to be picking stuff up and moving, which means you're not going to be working, which means that if you don't have employees, you're out of work. If you do have employees, they have to be able to handle everything without you, which for some people may not be an ideal situation. You have to protect yourself. I get little aches and twists every now and then from lifting something weird or overstraining myself. It happens, but I'm prepared for it. Work on your grip strength. There's a lot of things you can do. You can do farmer carries, just pick up 2 heavy things with your hands and just walk around your yard with it. Try to keep a really good posture. Squeeze everything like you're doing a plank, making everything nice and tight. Squeeze the crap out of your hands and work on your grip. You can hang from a bar. You can hang from the edge of your roof if you can reach. Grab a bucket and stand on it if you can't. There's a lot of things you can do to work on your grip strength because it's that squeezing factor you need. You need to be able to grab something really heavy and be able to hold it for a long period of time. Or if you're carrying a mattress, for example, downstairs, I just showed it in my last video. You grab the bottom of a mattress and you just pinch the fabric, and then you grab the top side. Sometimes they get really heavy. That grip is what's saving you. And then you need to have the core stability to keep yourself upright without having to fall like this. And you need to work on that stuff. So farmer walks, farmer carries, you can do unilateral walks where you just carry something really heavy on one side and your objective is to stay upright so that way your body doesn't want to lean. That's going to work on your core stability. That's going to work on the muscles around your back and your extensors, and it's going to work on your hip flexors and your core. Everything's going to get worked out, and that's what you need to work on to keep you safe in those situations. So doing farmer walks, just holding on to something heavy for a long time is going to help with your grip strength. And then for just general lifting, you could do weight training. You don't have to do anything crazy, but try to progress in strength if you can. If you have a gym near you, or if you have stuff at home, start doing squats. Just, do a slow progression. Deadlifts, you don't have to really necessarily do. You can work out all the same muscles doing just squats, which are safer, and a few other exercises. But deadlifts can be good if you can do them safely and not overextend yourself. I wouldn't even worry about bench press. I would actually do overhead press. So just focus on grabbing something and pushing it over your head. And those 2 to 3 exercises alone, I think, will drastically help out with your overall work function. But there's a few other things that you could do just to kind of help with stability. You can also, if you have a partner, you can do a plank and then have them put something heavy on your back, kind of down towards your lower back area, because that's where you're likely to collapse. Like if you ever see someone do push-ups and they get really tired, usually it's their hips that start to sag first. Put something heavy on your lower back and hold that position and try to do like 30 to 45 seconds at a time and build up to that. That's something that's going to help prevent you from kind of collapsing if you have something really heavy on you. Your lower back and your core, the first things to kind of bend 1 of 2 ways when you have something heavy up top. So I'm not a fitness trainer or personal trainer or anything, but I've been around the gym in the past. I've done the strength training and I've done the moving, and I've noticed what works and what doesn't, and realistically what exercises really help out with functionality. And I promise you that it's gonna make a huge difference with keeping you injury free as you continue to work in labor. So that's my advice. You can YouTube. I'll put up a list of things on the screen to kind of watch for. Just do it safely, but I promise you it's gonna help out a lot in labor to keep you from getting hurt. So that's my 2 cents on the subject. Please don't get upset. I didn't mean to offend anyone with strength, but you do need to kind of know how to lift up something heavy. And it's not just knowledge, you have to actually have the strength to do it. Technique does go a long way though, but you still need strength. So stay injury free. All right, so I wanted to show you guys a couple of things. These are things I used to do in the past. These are things similar to what I used to do when I did weightlifting to work on my grip. If you're wondering why you need grip in weightlifting, because you do deadlifts. And you can't use straps in deadlift in competition. I never use straps anyways. But when you're lifting a really heavy bar, even with the knurling, your grip starts to give because it's a heavy weight. So you work on your grip. And I found that even before I did weightlifting back in high school, I ran track and cross country. I am the definition of a skinny person doing sports. But I used to do a lot of pull-ups. And I used to work on my grip back then. Like I used to do like hand plowing into like a bucket of rice or dirt. That's like a Chinese method. I learned that years ago. And that would build up my grip and my forearm strength. Or I used to hold with cinder blocks like I'm about to show you. And there's a lot of things that I did that, as I look at moving, came in handy quite a bit. Because in moving, you're not always gonna have the same type of grip. You're not gonna be able to encompass something. You're not gonna be grabbing the same type of texture. It's not gonna be a perfect round thing. And you're gonna have situations where you might be using just your fingertips and holding like a 300-pound item, and you need to be able to walk with it. You need to be able to cup with just your hands and your fingertips and hold that. That can be challenging if you don't have that kind of finger strength. So I'm gonna show you a couple things you can use at home. The great thing about junk removal is we often find stuff that we can bring home for free, and you can use it for your workouts. If you don't have a gym to go to, or if you don't want to pay for a gym, it can definitely become expensive. I'm also going to show you a couple things you can do at home with these same items in the other exercises that we talked about earlier. And I'm not going to sit here and do a full-blown, this is how you do this exercise. You can YouTube it. I'm going to give you the proper name so you can just Google it and it'll show up like right away. And I'm just trying to let you guys know of a few things that I have experience with that I found to be very helpful, and it 100% carried over into when I did moving and junk removal. So we're gonna start off with the grip stuff, because I would argue that that's probably your most important thing. I've seen a lot of really big and strong guys that couldn't hold on to something for more than a few minutes because they're not used to doing that. You can sit there and work out all you want, but if you don't have good grip strength, you're gonna have a hard time lifting up a lot of big stuff and carrying it through tight, weird ways. So There's a few things I would recommend. They're pretty accessible, like I said, in junk removal. If I can stop getting bit by mosquitoes. It rains every day here, so it's like there's always mosquitoes. And we live on a lake. So the first thing are dumbbells. Most people already have dumbbells. It doesn't have to be super heavy. You're actually not going to be using it the way you normally would. So I'm going to show you the reason why I recommend the bigger one. So here's a 10 pound, or 8 pound, sorry. Here's a 15 pound. Now, to give you reference, this is how big the 15 pound is. It's a little bigger than my palm. I can't quite wrap my fingers all the way around, whereas the 8 pound, I can hook that. That makes it a lot easier for holding. So when you get weights like this, instead of holding it here, which is more natural, you're in a supinated position. You can wrap your hands around it without even thinking about it. We do this every day. When you hold soda cans, when you go to pull handles, your hand is used to having something like this in it. However, if you grab something by the head of it, a hexagon, you can't wrap your fingers around and then just hold it. You can move your arm around, do whatever you want. The objective is to just hold this for as long as you can. Not only are you not able to stretch your hand out all the way, but this is a lot of finger strength because I'm not able to hook it around anything to use leverage. I'm just pinching the sides of it. And if you want to challenge your finger strength, you can release a finger. And then you can release different fingers. You'll notice when you do pull-ups, releasing certain fingers actually affects your overall grip quite a bit. But you just hold this as long as you possibly can, and then you switch hands. Do the same thing. You're just gonna hold it for as long as you can, and then you would switch hands, and you go back and forth. So that's one thing. The next thing, as I mentioned, you can use stuff like around your house, a big brick. Now, this brick is 17 pounds. I weighed it. It's a standard edging brick you would use around a garden bed. It's not so wide that I'm overstretched, but it's a good pinching grip. And if your hands aren't as big as mine, grab a slightly smaller brick. Grab like a red brick. You just want something that's kind of heavy that you can challenge yourself with, and then just try to hold it for as long as you can. Just hold it by your side. And when you feel like you're starting to lose grip, put it down, switch hands. If you want to wear gloves while you're doing this, because we're going for strength, we're not trying to build calluses here, wear gloves, it doesn't matter. But I would argue that being bare skin is good because having that skin on surface contact, I would say goes a long way, especially in moving. It kind of helps you know if you're slipping your grip. Gloves can kind of be a little tricky with that. And sometimes you might be holding something that a glove might actually hinder the amount of grip you have. As silly as that may sound, I've seen it happen, I've had it happen. So sometimes your bare hand is the best, but if you don't want to have rough hands or calluses, then, you know, use gloves. Something else you can use, this mosquito is relentless. He's just following me around. I've been bit by mosquitoes 4 times already, and I've been here for 7 minutes. So the next thing is using a cinder block. I actually really like cinder blocks for grip purposes because there's a few different weight distributions that you can mess around with, and they come in handy for junk removal, and I'll show you why. So a cinder block, I actually don't remember exactly how much a cinder block weighs. I would say it's probably around 20, 25 maybe, give or take. You can Google it and correct me. But the cool thing about cinder blocks is that you have 2 openings, and there's a lot of ways you can hold it. So you can just shelf it and grab it like this. You don't even need your thumb. This actually comes in handy, believe it or not. Just holding it like this, being used to have that cupping motion where you're using leverage to hold up something, goes a long way. Of course, you can pinch it, but unless you can hold it up straight, it's not going to do much. That's why I kind of recommend this. If you want to work on your pinching, grab the middle of it, and just the farther away you get from having it like close to your palm, the more you're going to be working on your pinching. So if you grab it here and you just kind of grab in between and then hold it like this, you're just pinching the middle. That's all you're doing. If you really want to challenge yourself, you can make it wet so it gets slippery, but you're literally just pinching it and holding it for as long as you can. Or if you want to do farmer carries, since this is a heavier brick that you're likely going to find, hold up like a straight posture. Don't go like this, but just try to keep a straight position as if you're not holding anything. Brace your core, not flabby, brace it so you can like hit yourself and not lose breath. Brace your core, tighten your shoulders, and just walk around your yard holding one item in your hand. If you start to feel yourself lag, put it down, switch sides. But wait until you get to that point and then switch sides. But you're holding your position, you're not letting it sag, and you're not compensating by going like this. You're holding a straight position. You're walking as you're tightening your core, so you can work on that, because that's gonna help your core stability when you have a really heavy item and you're starting to, lose your breath and you're starting to get tired and your core is starting to give out. It's hard to breathe and keep your core tight. That's something you have to work on. I've seen a lot of people that are new into weightlifting. When they start to do like squats and deadlifts, we teach them to, you have to take a deep breath and tighten your core, but you have to be able to come back up, breathe without losing that tightness. A lot of people actually have trouble doing that. So it's something to work on. And farmer carries is a great way, because if you're doing a minute-long walk, you don't want to hold your breath for a minute while you're carrying something heavy. You want to be able to breathe but still maintain that core activation. So I really like cinder blocks. It's a great tool to use. In addition, because it is slightly a heavier size brick, you can use it for your other exercises. So we mentioned earlier doing squats, doing overhead press. You can use a cinder block if you don't have a dumbbell that exceeds 25 pounds. Or if you don't have like a barbell at home. So if you're gonna do squats at home, I would recommend doing a goblet squat. It's similar to a French squat, you just have the weight in a slightly different position. The idea is you're gonna hold a weight up here in front of your chest and pin your elbows in. You're gonna get your normal squat position, upright back, squeeze your core, pull your hips in a little bit, and you're just gonna squat straight down. You're trying to keep as upright of a position as possible. It's gonna work out your core, it's gonna work out your back, stabilizers, but it's also gonna work out your legs and your quads. And that driving motion, if you think about it, when you squat down to grab a heavy dresser or a couch, that's what you're using to push back up. People confuse deadlifts with being a back exercise. Your back gets worked out because your back is literally what's preventing you from just going like this. That's all your back is doing. Your back isn't really pulling up a deadlift. You're using your legs to drive up, and you're using your hips to push through. It is more of a lower body exercise. It's just been long-term used as a back because you build up your back muscles and you work out your lower back as a stabilizer. But a deadlift is more lower body, but if you don't do it correctly, then your lower back hits a lot of the toll. So I would recommend doing squats to help prevent injury. There's other things you can do instead of deadlifts, and I'll put up a list that you can YouTube to try and get an idea. But if you want to hold a cinder block, whatever grip you want to use, doesn't matter. Hold a cinder block up here. You're just gonna squat down, and that's it. And then we talked about doing overhead press. I can't stand up because I have this thing here, so same concept. Great thing about the cinder block is that you have handles, but if you don't want to use them, you don't have to. Just be careful not to drop it back and hit your face. So I'm here, I'm simply just gonna push up. That's all you're doing. That's why being in a gym is good, because obviously you can progress in weight. This is always gonna be the same weight. But if you don't have access, do this. Do slow pushes, do tempos. You push up fast, you slowly come down, you do pause reps, whatever you can to challenge yourself if you can't extend in weight. So you have that option. You can also do unilateral presses, because sometimes you might be in a position where you're bringing something big and heavy downstairs. It is humid out. I'm sweating. It's only been 13 minutes. You might be in a position where you're coming downstairs with something and maybe you need to push up slightly more on this side to get around like a railing. Obviously, that's not a symmetrical push if you're only pushing with one side and this hand's just kind of holding it stationary. So something you may want to do is when you're doing your overhead presses, maybe do a couple sets using both arms and then grab something a little lighter and just do single ones in whatever position. You want to come forward more, if you want to go out wide, doesn't matter. But that way your arms are used to doing individual presses and it's not gonna throw you off. You could do the same thing with legs. So something I'd recommend checking out is on top of squats, do a Bulgarian split squat. It's a little bit more challenging because it requires a little bit more balance, but it is super helpful for your hips. It targets your glutes really well and it hits your hamstrings and your quads individually like a lunge, but you need that balance for coordination, and that could be really big for junk removal and moving. So a Bulgarian split squat, let's pretend the generator is a bench. You literally just put one leg up on it and you're just gonna do a lunge. So right now I'm like kind of wobbly, especially if you find that one leg's a little weaker, and if it is, you either just have poor balance. It could also be a hip balance issue, but you're just in a position, you're just gonna squat down, come back up. So I'm in position, squatting down, coming back up. And you do that on both sides. If you find that's really easy, you probably have good balance, congratulations. Throw a dumbbell on one side, like the farmer walk, keep upright. Don't go super heavy in it. This is more just to help build those stabilizers and hip flexors, but that could be a really good alternative to kind of working out those movements. And then instead of doing deadlifts, and I only say this because people get excited about deadlifts and then they go lift really heavy weight, and that's how people usually get hurt, is if you don't do it proper progression with a proper technique, that's where things start to go wrong. So if you want to do this instead, it won't be as heavy, but it's a good alternative to work out the same muscles while also being good for junk removal moving. Like we're talking about coordination, stability, core stability, stuff like that. So you stand up straight, you have a weight in one arm, and you're simply just gonna go straight down and then come back up. It's like a personal trainer. Straight down, come back up. And what I'm doing, it's a little bit of like a hamstring stretch exercise, so it's like a deadlift in a way. It's like if you did an RDL or a straight leg deadlift. But what you're really doing is, when you're coming down, there's a lot of distribution with your hips to keep you from kind of going one of two ways. That's what you're controlling. You're also trying to maintain your back to make sure your back doesn't go like this. You want to try to keep that straight. So you can do 10 on each side for each leg. You know, you can do heavier weight, you can pause, you know, really work on your balance, because maybe there's a situation where you're bringing something downstairs and, you know, you need to step on one stair and your other leg's just kind of balancing in midair for whatever reason. I've been in situations where I'm acting like a flamingo for something, whatever that may be. Maybe it's a small step, maybe I'm like on the corner or something and I just need to have one leg up in the air. It happens. So that's another thing you can do. And then there's a shoulder exercise I want to show you guys that I would recommend if you already have shoulder pain, or if you find yourself always like really tight in the shoulders after doing work. You could just have poor stabilizers, and those like the little itty bitty muscles, like not like the big ones you're gonna work out, not like your delts or anything that you're gonna noticeably see. These are gonna work out all the small little muscles like around your rotator cuff and whatnot. But I have to show you that inside, and I think that's about it. So I would say if you can make a small little workout routine revolved around those exercises, do them at home on your own leisure with your own, you know, fitness level, and progress in it. You don't even have to necessarily progress, but just doing it to where you're actively involving these exercises will just go a long way, because most cases you're going to be working every day, so you're going to be doing this stuff all the time anyways. And it's just a good way to kind of help keep you strong. And because you're constantly working out with a little bit more controlled weight, even if it's not perfect like a weight machine would be, because we're doing more functional work and we're not always going to be in that perfect situation, I think this actually helps out perfectly for that. So I'm just going to show you that one more exercise, and then I'll put a list at the end of things to check out, like on YouTube or Google. You can get a pretty good idea of how to do stuff, but it's what I would think would be beneficial for our jobs. So this next thing that we're gonna do, you could do at the gym on either a incline bench or a flat bench, or you can do it at home on the end of a bed. And I say a bed just because you're gonna have the most surface area to help control your overall weight. And you can either use some lightweight dumbbells, like 5 pounds or less, or you can use some canned goods. If you don't have canned goods, you can use a pair of something with symmetrical weight that you got off of a junk job that's not super heavy, whatever that may be. It literally doesn't matter. This is really for stabilizer muscles. You don't want to go super heavy with these anyways. And they're called IYTs, and they're called that because you're mimicking the letter I, Y, and T. Think about like the YMCA. You're gonna do a similar I just thought of that in my head, like imagining that you're gonna be doing a similar fashion using whatever you want. I'm gonna use canned goods for this because Tanya's dumbbells, I don't know where they are. But you can use a bed because you can stretch out and it holds your majority of your surface area. And there's 2 things to watch for. Number 1, you're gonna notice that because I'm on the edge of a bed and I don't have perfect chest support because it's a little bit more flimsy, I'm actually gonna have my shoulders relatively pinned back and down. Not up like this, down. And you'll notice as I do it, it's controlled and it's slow. You're coming out, pausing, coming back in. You're not doing this super fast like that. It's a slow, controlled movement. So I'm first gonna just show you what they look like, and then I'll lay down on the bed and show you. So on the bed, your first one, with your shoulders in proper position, you're just gonna go straight up. As far as you can go with extension. You don't have to overextend, but you wanna make sure you're straight. And then you're gonna come down. Your next one's gonna be a Y. So you're gonna go up kind of on a Y, come back down. And then you're gonna do a T. So you're gonna come out and then go back like this. And you're gonna come back. So shoulders down and back, your I, straight up, your Y on a V, and then your T, you're coming up and you're going back. And that's all you're doing. I didn't think I'd be doing this today. I'm tired from my job. All right, so on the bed, because I'm naturally gonna kind of want to go down, I'm gonna hold my back up straight, which is also good because it's gonna be working out your lower back and your butt. But I'm gonna be in this position. You would be like on a bench holding your weight down here. I'm gonna do my I, my Y, and then my T. And that's it. But that's going to help work out all the little stabilizer muscles in your upper back and your shoulders. And it's good for health with your shoulders. And that's probably, I would say back and shoulders is what most people have issues with when they are doing moving, because you're not used to that constant pressing in those weird positions, and your shoulders, if they're not used to that, that's the first thing that's going to get hit. And then usually lower back, you're not in a perfect position to pick up stuff all the time, and sometimes you might be coming forward with a piece a little bit, which is how you hurt your back, or you might be picking something on a weird angle, and now you're kind of throwing your body off motion a little. So those are the 2 things I usually see the most in moving, and these are just a few things that kind of help combat that a little bit. So I'll throw up a list of some of the other things you can Google on YouTube or whatever, and look up a few other ways. Doesn't have to be super crazy. You don't have to be 100% perfect at it, but it's just to kind of help build up those small muscles that are greatly affected in your jobs to help prevent injury. So that's it for me. I am very sweaty, and I literally was outside for 15 minutes. Welcome to Florida. So I will see you guys next time. If you have any questions, ask them below. Again, I'm not a personal trainer. I don't have any certifications. This is just off of experience. So be safe.